One of our favourite things about the new edition of Warhammer 40,000 is the Crusade system. Being able to raise an army, watch it gain experience and even take battle scars over the course of games and build a story about this army as it advances through your battles has been really, really cool and exciting to play through, giving narrative gaming a real chunk of meat in the new 40k rule sets. So we were super excited to learn that Games Workshop were releasing a new mission pack supplement dedicated just to Crusade. So if you've seen the previously released chapter approved Grand Tournament 2020 pack, it's a similar concept. It is a book filled with some new missions. It has got some rules from the main book in there as a reference supplement, and it has got some great new content for your games of Crusade to add some narrative flavour to your battles and giving you options as you're growing your Crusade force. So this is a really cool book. It is up for pre-order today, and massive thanks to Games Workshop for sending us one to do a bit of a review and look through for you. So yeah, really cool book. Nice little slimline size with a little fabric bookmark as well, which is great for slinging in your bag if you're going to an event or having a bit of a gaming day. So much easier than casting around the big hardback rulebook. So yeah, what is in Crusade Beyond the Veil? So if we have a nosy in, and again as ever, some gorgeous artwork as we've seen in all of the new Warhammer 40,000 releases. And yeah, what this is essentially is a way of expanding your Crusade games. There's new agendas, there's new battle traits, there's new relics, there's a new theatre of war with different abilities and debuffs essentially that go off during your game. And yeah, it's really good for adding additional content to your Crusade games. So we kick off with a nice chunk of information about the Pariah Nexus. So this is the new region that's explored in the Warhammer 40,000 rulebook, and essentially it's a region of space that has been shut off from the warp by the Necrons and their Blackstone monoliths. And yeah, the Imperium's a little bit concerned because people become kind of a drugged, drowsy zombie state here, and it seems that the only weapon against it is faith in the Emperor. And the Guillimans dispatched the forces of humanity to go and find out what exactly the Necrons are up to. So I'm hoping this sees threads that will continue into the Space Marine and Necron Codex, and it's really expands on the stuff in the rulebook if you want to know more about the Pariah Nexus, which is really cool. We also find out about the war zone and a little galactic map showing the main sites of activity. So really cool for a bit of narrative about where these games are being set. Because that's the key thing, with this supplement your games will be set within this war zone, and there's rules in here to represent the different things that happen in battles there, which is really cool. So going into the meat of the book, we have the mission pack. So if you've seen the mission packs in the Warhammer 40,000 rulebook, obviously you've got the match play one and you've got the Crusade one. This is very similar to that. We get 6 new missions for each size of game, which is really cool. We've played an awful lot of Crusade since we picked up Indomitus, and already hungry for more missions. So to have an additional 24 missions here to play through is great because we really enjoyed doing these. Few new things though. There's a theatre of war, so you determine some random effects that impact your game in some way. These, again, probably more of a narrative twist to the game. Some of them have got quite some big penalties, so it'll be interesting for your game to see what happens. As with normal Crusade games, you select your agendas, but the book has actually got some brand new agendas for you to pick from. So, we have got stuff like Ambush. You get a ambush tally, you add to it each time you destroy an enemy unit, and an additional one if they were set up this turn. So nice little agenda to reward you counter-striking those units that deep strike in or come in from reserves, which is really cool. There's a few new mechanics for your Crusade games as well. So Uncover the Answers is similar to some of the other action-based agendas we've seen in the past, but there's a chance of you getting investigation points, which we'll look at in a little bit. But essentially this is another resource that you gather from playing games or winning battles or doing these specific agendas that reward it, that can give you more benefits during your game. And I really like this idea of having multiple different pools of resources that you can draw on to expand your forces. Makes it really, really cool. So yeah, lots of cool new agendas there. We also see some new battle traits to represent the kind of things that we'd see within the Warzone Pariah. So, veterans of the Pariah Nexus, they're unaffected by any of the afflictions, so as you'll see later on, there's, you know, quite some negative effects that you guys can suffer from, but by taking that battle trait, you can make that unit resilient to it, which is really cool. We've got strength through faith, because as we say, faith is one of the few things that gets around this mysterious force that's subduing everything in the zone. And yeah, essentially that reflects for a single hit, wound or damage roll that can be re-rolled once per battle, which is pretty cool. And then Crusaders, you can re-roll results of 1 and 2, and you can re-roll morale tests, which is pretty cool. We've got a new vehicle only one, where essentially if it takes any wounds in the psychic phase, they get a shrug on a 5+, so essentially ignoring, you know, mortal wounds on a 5+ is pretty handy. We get a new monster only one, where there's exploding hits on 6s, which is pretty cool for your big gribbly monsters, and a new character one where essentially it gives nearby units the ability to use their leadership. So again, really good for counteracting those punishing morale tests in the new edition. We also get some new relics, and these have got a cool new mechanic. So when you get them, they are kind of locked, and you don't know the true powers contained. But there is a chance at the end of each battle that you can unlock its true potential if you roll a 6 at the end of the battle, which is cool. So they've got additional effects. Interestingly, if the bearer is a Necron, they add 4 to the result. So essentially on a 2+, they are unlocking the full ability of the weapon. On a 1, they just get the minor version. And as you'd expect in the Pariah Nexus, they're all very kind of Necron orientated. So you've got a Blackstone Ankh. Essentially, it's a 6+ shrug against mortal wounds, but with the unlocked version, it's a 5+ shrug against mortal wounds. So that's pretty handy against psychic heavy armies. You know, imagine a custodian having that to be able to nullify some adverse effects. It'd be really cool. The Solar Shift Core, you can re-roll advance and charge rolls made by the bearer, and in the unlocked version, you cannot be overwatched as well, or set to defend. So that's pretty handy if you want to make sure that your big stabby unit of Scorpec destroyers isn't getting overwatched, and they're definitely going to make their charges. So I really like the one. So we've got the Heroptech Staff. This is pretty cool as well. Subtract 1 for the attack characteristic of enemy models while they're within engagement range of the bearer. So you can strip a lot of attacks off multi-attack models with this. It is down to a minimum of 1, but yeah, nice little thing to get rid of those extra attacks on Space Marines and stuff. Is pretty tasty. And again, in the unlocked version, it becomes a 6-inch bubble as well. So even a support character with this, get close enough, can strip some attacks off things, which is really cool. And then we've got the Rod of Lambent Energy. This is a new melee weapon, +2 strength, AP -1, 2 damage. Pretty tasty. With the unlocked version, it becomes damage 3 and strength +3. So yeah, that's pretty cool as well, especially for some armies that might not have access to any high strength weapons. Pop that on them. Even, you know, guardsmen are going to be hitting pretty hard with that, which is cool. And then we have got the Sphere of Darkness. So this allows you to deny the Witch in the same style as the Psyker. So really cool to have some psychic defences for armies that don't normally have access to it. And again, in the unlocked version, you get +1 to your Deny the Witch test as well. So some really cool relics. It'll make it interesting to, you know, decide what you pick from when you do your upgrades and spend your acquisition points at the end of a battle, which is really cool. We've got some new battle scars as well. These are pretty thematic, and obviously you can just spend a requisition point to ignore it. I really like taking the battle scars. They add some narrative flavour to the battle, and yeah, you know, your guy might have a penalty, but there's a bit of a story there, and there'll be some comeuppance later on in the campaign when your character, even stricken with his battle scar, manages to take out his rival. So yeah, I really like the battle scar. I think there's some cool stuff in there as well. What is totally new in this book is the investigation points. So like I said earlier, you will get some of them as rewards for winning some battles. Some of the agendas will reward you them at the end of the game if you meet some certain conditions. And this essentially represents how much you understand about the Pariah Nexus, which is really cool. As again, another element, you can imagine weaving a story between these games, and I don't know, maybe you're a guard regiment that's been sent out to do grunt duty in the Pariah Nexus, and very slowly your officers start piecing together what's happening and realising what the true threat is here. And yeah, this basically represents that. And as you accumulate them, you can spend them on different things. So you can use them to learn the unlocked ability of the relics that we mentioned on the previous page. So if you don't want to gamble on that, the dice roll, you can spend a number of investigation points to add to the dice roll, basically to make it more likely that you will succeed in the roll. We have got mental conditioning, so you can use it to remove battle scars. So another resource if you want to maybe use your requisition points somewhere else. And this is a bit of a theme that continues throughout these. So you can increase supply limit for 3 investigation points rather than using requisition points. You can just spend 4 to gain a requisition point if you do need it for some reason. You can spend 7 to get a relic, which is really cool. And if you get 9, you can upgrade a unit with a battle honour. So yeah, you can maybe dedicate your army to try and collect these investigation points to buff up a few units. So yeah, really like that. And there's lots of different ways now of advancing your character. So I really hope this is something that we see expanded in other supplements and in codexes and stuff. But yeah, it'll be cool to see what they do with this system, because I imagine the whole kind of mission pack system makes it really expandable, which is cool. We then have the Theatre of War. So like I said earlier, the games are set within the Pariah Nexus, which is this region of space with some strange Blackstone sourced anomalies that are causing havoc on the mortal population. And yeah, there are some new setbacks and afflictions that represent the various things that are happening in this system. So for the setbacks, each player divides their deployment zone as evenly as possible into 3 equal sections and numbers than 1, 2, 3. When setting up a unit from their army on the battlefield, each player must roll a d3 to determine which section of the deployment zone that unit goes up in. When you run out of room, you've got to roll again until another section is determined. So essentially, you have got less control if this setback is rolled randomly at the start of the game for where your units go, making it quite tough potentially to plan out where your forces go if you want everything on one flank and it ends up being deployed on the other flank. So that's a bit of an interesting twist. And of course this is affecting your opponent as well, so it could absolutely ruin your battle plans and mean that you need to do some redeployment in the first turn, which is pretty cool. We've got deferred reinforcements as the second result on here. So reinforcement units cannot be set on the battlefield until the 3rd or subsequent battle rounds and cannot be set within 12 inches of any enemy models. So yeah, that is a massive penalty for things that are coming in from reserves, or you know, sneaky deep strikes and try a cheeky 9-inch charge. Can't do it anymore. You're going to be outside of 12 inches, so you're not going to be able to do any charges. So yeah, that will massively affect some armies. And then we've got faltering deployments. After declaring reserves and transports, each player must separate the remaining units from their army into 3 parts. Each part must contain at least 1 unit, and essentially, if you don't have enough units, you've got to do it as evenly as you can. And yeah, essentially you can only deploy 1 part of your army. And the reinforcements of the first movement phase, the remaining parts will come on as reinforcements. So yeah, it kind of staggers how the army comes onto the battlefield. So again, that will change your, I suppose, change your tactics, and you have to think about, you know, do you hold on for the rest of your army to turn up, or do you push ahead with what you've got and hope to counteract later on with the remaining elements? So these are all, you know, completely optional. You could use them in other games. I think they look pretty cool to add a bit of flavour and a bit of a twist into the battles. Remember, these are narrative battles, so a little bit of a spanner in the works is always quite cool. Especially when you might have armies with quite a difference in Crusade score. This could level the playing field by just absolutely ruining the battle plan of one side, which is quite cool. I like that. Then we've also got some afflictions. These are also some negative effects. that will impact your battles. And these have got quite a big effect. Again, it does say this is optional, and if you both agree to it, you can use it. Think the realm abilities out of Age of Sigmar. Some of these are going to have massive effects on the battle. I quite like these because it is a bit of a random element that you've got to fight against during your battles. So, for example, Smothering Silence, subtract 1 from Psychic tests and deny the Witch tests. However, Psychers do not suffer perils of the warp. Pretty cool. The Stilling, subtract 1 from Advance and Charge rolls, and subtract 1 from the Strength characteristic of all models. So combat's taking a bit of a hit if that affliction's in place. Unnatural Dread, units always count as being below half strength. So you are going to be suffering combat attrition on a 1 or 2 for all of your units, and on top of that you're -1 leadership as well, so you're more likely to fail them. So really, really devastating for some armies. Labouring Machines, subtract 6 inches from the range of all weapons with a range characteristic of 24 and more for vehicles, and subtract 3 inches from the range of all weapons of less than 24-inch range. So essentially it's going to reduce all your weapon ranges. Pretty devastating really for some armies. Should be quite interesting to see that on the battlefield. We've got Black Zone, worsen invulnerable saves by 1. Again, armies that rely on those invulnerable saves, Harlequins for example, will be really impacted by that. And then Unnerved, at the start of your command phase, roll 2d6 for each unit from your army that's more than 9 inches away from any friendly character units. If it's equal or greater, it cannot perform actions or make use of the objective secured ability. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, a lot of the new battle traits that you can pick up will nullify some of those abilities. So if you're going full in for the narrative and rolling on these charts at the start of the game, it may be worth spending some levels up on making some of your units immune to these and adding kind of leadership linchpins throughout your army. So I quite like them. I'm looking forward to playing some games with them. I admit they're not going to be for everyone, but I think for some narrative games they're going to be some great fun. So that's kind of the new rules material within the book. We also get a load of new Crusade missions, and yeah, 6 for each size of mission, which is really cool. I am really enjoying the rate of speed that these new missions are coming out. It's keeping all our games really varied, and yeah, exciting to play, which I really enjoy about the 9th edition of the game. Back in previous editions you'd be waiting for, chapter approved every year to refresh the missions. The game's only been out a couple of months now, and already we've got loads and loads of different missions that we can play through, which is really exciting. And some different types of deployment maps. We've got some different types of abilities in some of these battles as well. There's a really cool one, which I think is on the next page, where there is essentially a shroud splitting the battlefield in 2. And if you're shooting anyone through that shroud, they get a 5+ invulnerable save. So that's going to encourage armies to get closer together. So gun lines, you're going to be less effective, because if you're shooting through that line, you're going to be giving your opponent an invulnerable save. So really cool mechanic there. And then yeah, some cool different layouts and objectives, and even deployment zones, just to vary the games. Again, a lot of these are maybe weighted to the attacker more than the defender, or vice versa. So it's going to make it interesting on who wins that roll off and decides who plays. This one's one of my favourite ones as well, where essentially there's a number of objectives going back towards the corner, and the current turn is what you're fighting over. To basically represent your guys are starting here, then fighting back in a bit of a fighting retreat, which is really cool. The attacker will set up their movement distance from any of their edges on the first turn, and that's essentially their movement, and then they'll start rushing towards the enemy line. So I think this is going to be a really cool battle to play, where you've got a big block of troops fighting their way back while the attacker's trying to take them. So yeah, looks really cool, that one. But yeah, lots of cool stuff in here, and anything that adds variety to the games is a big plus in my book. This combined with the stuff out the core book, you're going to have loads of different Crusade missions to play through. And I do kind of hope that we get some missions in the codexes as well. I think that'd be a nice thing to have in there, because we've seen it in some of the Age of Sigmar books where we've got some bespoke scenarios in the book. So it'd be good to expand them in here. This one's really cool. Again, big kind of dense city fight kind of mission where you've got big blocks of area terrain that you've got to fight through. Yeah, I hope we see a lot more of this. And I think this is, you know, there are, including this and tactical deployment, there's now 3 mission packs in addition to the mission packs that are in the core rulebook. So if they keep coming out at this rate, we'll have a load of missions to play through. So yeah, and then the rest of the book, in a similar way to the chapter approved Grand Tournament 2020 mission pack, are the basic rules of the game. So you don't need to be carting around your big hardback rulebook with you. Now, some of the rules aren't on here, like the various detachments and some of the kind of core Crusade abilities that you can get. So you still need your rulebook for this, but for taking this round to, you know, a friend's house or a gaming club and having all the core rules on hand without needing that big hardback rulebook is really cool. And again, it's got the terrain features in the back of it as well, which is great for reference, especially when, you know, some of us are still learning the various terrain traits and the advantages and disadvantages of them all. So that is Warhammer 40,000 Crusade Beyond the Veil mission pack. I would say pick this up. It's such a great supplement. I love Crusade so much, and it's one of my favourite things about the new edition of the game. So for me, it's a must buy. If you prefer your match play, maybe not your cup of tea, but I'd definitely give Crusade a go. It's varied missions, it plays in a kind of different way than match play. You've got different things to think about. Obviously you've got the element where you get an experience on your character and getting different relics, and I think just being able to tell the story of a few forces fighting through this system over the course of, you know, say even a year, it's really cool for me. So yeah, I'd definitely check it out. So yeah, if you enjoyed that, check out the website. We have got quite a few Crusade battle reports up now as well. I'll link one at the end of this video. And yeah, we will be doing a couple of Crusade battle reports from this mission pack as well. So hopefully have some of those up by the time this is released. So until next time, we will see you later.